What is up, everybody? It is Dr. Vibe here, as always, saying you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. I'm the host of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, also a certified empowerment coach. And most Tuesday nights at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we do a conversation about manhood. And I just want to get this correct. I don't do shows, I do conversations. I just title it shows so people think it's formal, but it's a conversation. And a few weeks ago, I was thinking, you know what? People say you always bring topics to the platform that either we don't want to talk about, we need to talk about, or not talked about in many places. So tonight we're going to chat about men who were raised without mothers, or fathers who are just raising boys on their own. Because to me, they're parallel, same thing. And I am really blessed because this gentleman who's beside me is a living testimony of a man who's raising his boys on his own. There's no mother there. So I am very pleased to have Moto JT, but better known and should be known as Jay Garrett, on the line. Jay, what is up?
I'm very glad to see you, Dr. Vibe.
I am glad. You don't know, I'm very glad in my heart to see, because this is something that you can speak firsthand about because you're in that situation. And I think it's definitely a topic, and it may be a two-parter. I don't know, but let me ask, and hey, Ryan, what is up? If you want to jump in, that's great. So explain your situation first. Presently, you're raising how many boys?
Okay, I've got two boys that are teenagers, 15 and 19, and I've had them for about 80% of the time of their formative growing up years. Their mom and I divorced when they were 3 and 7, and so what's that, like first grade and not even preschool yet? And she's has been around, but she hasn't been very active in their lives until just about the last year and a half. She lived in London for a couple of years. I live in Austin, Texas. She moved to London and got married, and she was over there about 3 years. In fact, the way that I like to describe, our possession schedule, that's what they call it in Texas, possession of the children. She would have the boys on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday nights when they were in grade school. And then I would have them every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. So I had them for every weekend. And she essentially, they would ride the bus to my house, and she would pick them up about 7 o'clock. So she would have them from 7 until they went to bed, 9 or 10 o'clock, 3 nights a week. So that's about 6 hours. That maybe the most 9 hours a week that she had them. The first 10 years that we were divorced, she only had the boys on 4 Mother's Days. So I actually had them on more Mother's Days than she did. Very odd situation, I thought, but my marriage counseling turned into divorce counseling when she stopped attending, and I continued for probably about 6 months or so. And the reason I continued is I thought it would be healthy to discuss what I was going through. Plus, I didn't know how to really process it because it's not an experience that I had gone through. I was not prepared for it. And then thirdly, I thought if that therapist, counselor knew her personally, then it wouldn't be my interpretation of who she was or how she was being. He would actually know her and be a better therapist and counselor for me in dealing with how to raise the boys, how to heal myself from that situation. And one of the things that he revealed to me was that in a majority of the marriage or the divorce counseling that he was doing, the same situation had arisen. So this has been 12, 13 years ago. Yeah, 12 years ago that I went through this divorce. And at that time, he said that he was counseling either men or women through a divorce where the same situation had occurred, where the husband did not want the divorce and the wife not only wanted the divorce, but she also did not want to be the primary caregiver of the children. And the men were stepping up to the plate and wanting to be the primary caregiver of the children. And it baffled him. It baffled me. Of course, I knew my thoughts and my feelings as far as raising the kids. And as an aside, my divorce lawyer, when we were discussing me having the kids every weekend, he looked at me and he said, "Jay, why do you want to agree to that? You're giving up your free weekends." And my response to him was like, "Jimmy," I said, "you're married, right?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Do you have children?" He goes, "Yes." I said, "When do you have a free weekend?" And he was like, "Good point." So it's not that I was giving up free weekends. It was I was going to have weekends with children taken away from me because of the divorce. I didn't look at it that way. And it was just peculiar to me that I was not the only one in that situation, that there were at least 10 other couples that were all attending the same, or one half of the parent pair was meeting with the same therapist that I was meeting with. So that was kind of peculiar. But she's since moved back from London. She bought a house about a year and a half ago, and the boys are now spending more time with her. And she engages better with adult children or young adult children than she ever did with the boys as they were younger. Still a bunch of issues. They go over there just to appease her so she doesn't complain. But they do not have a good relationship with her at all. And it's impacted their relationship with girls moving forward as far as dating goes. So that's what's it, maybe a 5-minute synopsis of 7 minutes.
Hey, you know what? I know it's much longer than that, but that's fantastic. Before I ask you to continue on, welcome, Alicia. If you want to step in, and because she shared that her husband grew up without a mother because her mother, his mother passed away at 11 years old and died of cancer. So it's not always a divorce situation. There can be things like death that bring this out. Alicia, if you want to jump in and share any perspective that your husband shared with you, it'd be appreciated. So Jay, you've spent a long time. Oh, fantastic! This is what we want. People coming in and joining the conversation.
Hi.
Hey, how you
doing? Great. I'm trying to get him in here. Hopefully he'll come in. He's just putting a couple of the kids to bed. He was really a matter of fact about it. I always ask him, like, didn't you guys go to therapy? Didn't you talk about it? He goes, they told me that she died and I cried. I went to her funeral and I went to Disney World. And that's like, what? Now, I grew up with my mom, my dad, who worked 3 jobs so he could put us through the best schools and give us everything that we needed and help us. We traveled. My mom's from Ecuador, so we would go back. So the dichotomy here is that I was raised mostly with women, and he was raised with his 2 brothers, his sister, and his dad, and a village. They had a nun who came in, Sister Marianne, who was amazing, and she stepped in as caretaker for the children for about a year or more. Grandma helped. There were a lot of neighbors who helped with them, and he doesn't really have very many like feelings that he's conscious of that he really shows. Now, I say that because I know there's got to be something in there somewhere. Deep down inside, because he doesn't show it. He doesn't have like an act of like, it's Mother's Day. That's about it. There's no like, oh, I miss my mom, or I wish she was. He goes, I don't remember. I don't, you coming in, hon? Come on over here. He's coming.
How old is he when that happened?
11. Hold on, I'll let him sit. Hold on. So they want to ask you about your mom.
This
is Daniel.
Hello.
Hey, Dan. Hey, Daniel. How
I'm
are
doing
you?
good. How are you?
I am blessed and highly favored. Great to have you on. You're joined by Jay Garrett from Texas, and we're discussing tonight men who were raised without their mothers, or fathers of today who are doing it on their own, raising their kids. And your dear wife was so kind to mention to us that unfortunately you lost your mother due to cancer at 11 years old. And how was it growing up without a mother?
Well, I mean, I guess, it just kind of became a norm, I mean, we had to do more things for ourselves. My father had to work, obviously. So, we were expected to take care of certain things around the house that maybe we wouldn't normally do. My concept of traditional parental roles obviously was different because, my dad had to do the mother stuff and the father stuff. So, my idea of, a traditional man, was out the window because, I didn't have the traditional dad. So, he had to cook, he had to do laundry, he had to, clean and stuff like that. So, I was much more open to a non-traditional, father/husband role, when I got married, because that's, what I grew up with. So.
Okay, cool. Did it have any effect on your dealings with women not growing up with a mother?
I'm sure it did. I mean, I was pretty shy before I got into high school. So I was terrified of speaking to girls. I was afraid I didn't join any sports teams because I was afraid of making a mistake in front of all those people. So, I was pretty shy. So girls were kind of out of the question, for a long time. It wasn't until I got into high school and I joined a church-based youth group, that I started to open up and, I started dating and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's impossible for me to know like what my attitudes would have been towards women had I had a mother. So I'm definitely assuming that it's different. My attitudes are different because she wasn't there.
Right.
My wife has commented sometimes like, I was looking for a mother in a wife, early on in our relationship. She would say that kind of in passing on occasion, and I guess that, if I think about it, sometimes, I do look for somebody, who can nurture me, if I think about that. But by the same token, I've also I have 3 siblings. I was 2.5 years older than my next youngest sibling, and then they were 1 year apart. So when you're growing up, I was 11, my next oldest was 8. That's a big difference in age. So I was kind of, and not that we didn't have friends to hang out with in the neighborhood, but when we were home, I didn't spend a lot of time necessarily hanging out with my siblings. I spent a lot of time reading or just doing stuff by myself. So even though I kind of craved that nurturing, at the same time, I was comfortable kind of being by myself, too. So that makes sense.
Well, for a gentleman that grew up without a mother, you hit the jackpot with the lady you got. You know that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Jay, any comments you wanted to add at this present time?
Well, I appreciate Daniel sharing. I mean, that's encouraging, because one of my biggest fears for my children was them growing up with a mother that was detached or was removed from their lives for so much of their lives. And just how I know it impacts, different things impact people differently. So, just having another opinion and another, relationship that's that Alicia and Daniel are showing and sharing is encouraging. So it's it's not, I mean, it's devastating, but it's not maybe a dead end. It's not debilitating. It's a sad situation to go through. Not having a mother or a father, having a single parent household, for sure. But it doesn't have to be the end of the world, and it doesn't have to be even a real a total negative situation either. I mean, it could be a net positive. I mean, there's going to be some different different issues, like Daniel was sharing, that there were times early in the relationship that he was looking for some nurturing.
I still look for that. That's
well, and I was going to say, I think that happens in a healthy relationship. I think that's one of the things that even with a healthy relationship with your mother, I think you look for some nurturing. I mean, I know that I've got a fabulous mom, but in relationships, I do crave some of that nurturing, at least at times. So
A lot of times Daniel's more nurturing than I am. He's more
Oh,
get on the floor. I'm a fierce mama bear, but he's the get on the floor, play games. I'm the taking them in the car, driving them back and forth, doing I'm a very my love language is acts of service. So my way of showing love is doing. And so I had to really deal with that, not being a mushy gush mom. He's more of a mushy gush dad. I'm more of a, just tell me like it is. Come on, let's go, move. We've got 7 children.
yep. Yep.
there's plenty of nurturing going
Yeah.
on.
You better believe that. You better believe that big time. Daniel, give some testimonial about your father, because he had to be a father and a mother. And I think that's I want people to hear that, because it's not easy being a father, but we're having him to be a father and a mother. How did you handle that, and how did he handle that?
Well, my father, obviously, there was a lot of stress going on, during the time that my mother had cancer. He took great pains to avoid really exposing a lot of her suffering to us. He really didn't want us to see all the stuff that she went through. I mean, obviously we knew that there were things going on, because she was in the hospital, in and out of the hospital. We knew that, with the chemo, she had, had lost her hair. She had her breast removed. She had a hip replacement, so she had gone through quite a bit. She had fought pretty hard, and then eventually it just was too much. But he tried to shelter us as best he could from all of that. So once she passed, we did have support. We did have friends and family come in and help us, quite a bit, in the beginning. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it was him and us. And I don't respect anybody in this world more than I respect my father. And the one thing that I hate more than anything else is letting him down. He never remarried. He got engaged once, but that's another story. But he never remarried, so he pretty much, did it alone. So yeah, I just have the utmost respect for him. He, and nobody's perfect, but he always, gave of himself. He was always there to love, to give. I hold him up as an ideal. It's just, I tell him, if I could be half the person that you've been to us, then I'd consider myself to be successful. So it's, he's definitely on a pedestal. I can't say enough, good things about my father. So
he has 17 grandchildren, and he goes to like every single one of them to play sports games. Like he'll go to 5 or 6 games in a day. He's how old now? 83, and he is just going and going. He's amazing, and I love him. He is a saint.
He's very family oriented. He always insisted on us eating dinner together every night, even when my siblings and I were in high school and started to get involved with activities and everything else. Pretty much almost every night without exception, we were all together as a family to eat dinner. And the reason why the engagement actually never went through is because his fiance felt that, now that we were grown at this point, we were all adults, she felt that, they could spend more time together. And why do you, insist on spending so much time with your kids? I don't think that's, that's necessarily healthy at this stage of your life. And he was basically like, well, that's just not going to happen. So that was the end of that. So I mean, if it came down to his family versus anybody else, it's the family, always the family. So, yeah.
You know what? It sounds like your father has the best qualities of a father and a mother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's awesome. What I can say.
Yeah, that's a great testimonial. That is a huge, let alone if you want to, we can get that in when both parents are together, get that string zone. That's one who's doing it. That's a fabulous testimony. He man. Do you know how blessed you are?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Wow. And what has your father doing those dual roles taught you about being a man?
Well, the biggest thing I think that he's taught me, is just, be responsible for your actions. Take responsibility for yourself, take responsibility for your actions. It's also, just the whole experience, with my mother passing, is that nothing's permanent in this world, and I see people getting upset about, petty things. And not that I don't get upset about petty things, but, it's, it helps put things in perspective on a grander scale, when I want to complain about things being bad, things could certainly be worse. I've got it far better than a lot of people do. So
Excellent.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That is fantastic. Jay, come on back. I know you've been enjoying this. So what do you want to add from what Daniel's shared? All I want to add to Daniel's share, I wish I could meet his father.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just so encouraging. I mean, it really is. It seems that in our society, men get the shaft on so many, are blamed for so many errors and problems, and it's so good to be involved with men that are doing things the right way and hearing stories from around the country, around the world, where other men are doing the right thing and are Daniel's father definitely, he's getting y'all's praise, and we're recognizing him now in this discussion. But so oftentimes, those men that are, stepping up to those responsibilities are not, are not recognized. I want to use the term glorified, but that's not what I mean. I'm not thinking glorified, but they're almost, it's like a stay-at-home mom. It seems like the stay-at-home moms, we are recognizing how important that job is, and it's one of the most important jobs, if not the most important job, as far as raising children. But stay-at-home dads and dads that do both the dual roles are, need to be recognized so that they don't give up, and so that they can encourage each other. And it seems like that's a real small segment of society that, so oftentimes, Dr. Vibe, we've had some of these conversations, and we're discussing, what can men do to step up? What can men do to be a better man and a better father and a better husband? And, different societal groups have greater pressures on them, have certain stigmas attached to them, and they don't get the encouragement that they need. So, this has just been a real blessing to, hear from a different perspective, and hear about another man that's, doing things the right way, and just a blessing that he's had on Daniel, and not only Daniel and his siblings, but the grandchildren, on Alicia, her family. He's touched. Just right now, you add all that up, that's 35 or 40 individuals that he's had a dramatic life impact, and their lives have changed. They make decisions. Those 40 people make life decisions differently for knowing Daniel's dad. And that's amazing. Amazing.
His dad's name is Daniel, too.
Yeah. Oh, Daniel Sr.
Well, not technically. The middle names are different, but, But I think it's also important for us to realize, though, because, again, a lot of times we don't get feedback, but, we have to understand that we're touching lives as well, for better or for worse, so the decisions that we make when we're out there in the world or when we're with our families, we are affecting people. We may not think we see that, but, it is happening. And it would be nice to get feedback. Sometimes we don't, but, a lot of times we do. Sometimes, I tend to think my kids, when they're home, they're in their comfort zone and they behave a certain way. And you tend to think, well, this is the way that they behave all the time. But I can't tell you how many times I get feedback from parents of, neighbors or from school or what have you. And they talk about how, great my kids are, not to brag on my kids, but just helps to understand that, you are having an impact, you are having an effect. When you have an adult that comes up and just, maybe a total stranger at a restaurant, just say, I just want to tell you, your kids are great. Oh my gosh, they're so quiet. I can't tell you how many times that we've been to a restaurant and the kids are just running all over the place. And, you don't even think about it. They may even be bothering you at that moment with something that they're doing, but other people are looking at that and comparing that to other people's kids and saying how wonderful your children are. So it's important to realize that, we are having an impact too, so.
Let me ask, do either one of you gentlemen know any men at this current time that are raising kids on their own? By the quietness, it probably is
well,
nobody.
I'm just thinking because, we know so many people that are divorced. They're kind of, they're sharing time with the kids, but to be completely on their own,
yeah, I don't know anybody right now. And even my own situation now, in the last year and a half, my boy's mom has been, is reintroduced into their lives. So
Jay, let me highlight on you here. When your wife was not around, how was that experience?
It was actually easier when she wasn't around than when she is around.
Okay.
Because having now, since she's been reintroduced into their lives, it is or has been, just a whole nother set of calendar and a whole nother set of expectations that have to be dealt with. And upsets the norm. It upsets the boys' routine. And little things like I still live in a house that we were divorced in. And so the boys, I wanted to maintain as much stability as I could for the boys. So this is home. I mean, this house is the house that my 15-year-old was born in. So he's never lived anywhere else but this house. So this is home. And while she was gallivanting around and, renting apartments and all that kind of stuff, she would use terms like, I just want you to come home. And he's like, I am home, and so it would, those little things would disrupt their day and hurt them. So I think it was definitely more difficult to reintroduce her into their lives. It was easier when she was completely out. But on the flip side, they need, their mother's around, unlike Daniel's situation. I mean, one of my pastors, when I first got divorced, I had some inclinations that I needed to get married again to model what a healthy marriage looked like for the boys, so that they wouldn't be scarred by the divorce and, the unhealthy marriage that we had. And one of my pastors said, he was like, their mom she's not passed away. She's still around. So you're not trying to replace their mother. And you don't need to get married to model a healthy marriage. You just need to have the boys exposed to other healthy marriages. And they can see what that looks like, whether it's their grandparents, the neighbors, somebody else from church, just whomever. You just want to expose them to what a healthy marriage looks like, because, kids pick that up. It doesn't have to be necessarily in their home. And, Daniel could probably speak to that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of interesting because, I don't remember, I assume that, what I remember of my parents' relationship was good. I don't remember them, really fighting or anything like that. And having her go at that age, you tend to, I think, romanticize a little bit, because it's so far back now in memory. I'd even forgotten, what the sound of her voice was like and things like that. So, for me, I had some pretty good models, through high school and the youth group that I was involved with. There were adults that were involved in my life, that definitely modeled a healthy Christian-based marriage model. So I definitely got to see that, not through my parents necessarily, So from the marriage aspect, yes, I definitely had good examples of that through just through the community that I was involved with. So, yeah.
Dr. Vibe, I thought of somebody. I have a friend, his name is Rich Vossler. His wife died of cancer, and he was left to raise 9 children on his own. He lives in South Jersey, and if I'm trying to get him on the phone now, I'm trying to see if I can get in contact with him. His name is Rich Vossler, and he is an amazing 9 children. He posted something so touching. If I can't get in touch with him, I'll read you his Facebook post. But it was so gut-wrenching. It was just, he was doubting himself, and it was like, it would make you cry. So let me see if I can get him on. He's not answering my Facebook messaging, but if not, I can read you his Facebook post. It was just gut.
Wow, that is a true warrior.
Yeah. He's amazing. He's amazing. He does something called self-talk. He's like a self-talk coach, and he goes around doing speeches and doing presentations. He's quite amazing. But it's amazing to see how this man, who's so touching to other people, could have doubted himself. But he does, and it was amazing. Let me look to see what I can find.
Thank you. That's wow. Even if you read something that just tells me 9 kids and he's doing it on his own. That's phenomenal. I just want to shout out some people here. Colin Porter, welcome. Thank you so much. Sevilla Morgan, thank you so much for stopping by. I did get your message and I'm all for it. And Robert Phelan, Hain Fanatic, thank you so much for stopping by. If anyone wants to jump in on this one, I had a feeling that not too many people would jump in on this one because A, they probably don't know too many people in that situation, and B, it's probably maybe somewhat too deep for them to chat about, but I don't care. I think it's an important topic. It's one that doesn't get discussed enough because we always hear in the media about how many boys are raised with their fathers. But there's a lot of men out there that are taking care of their kids on their own, boys and girls. So, Daniel, you have been such a blessing to this conversation tonight because you've lived it and Jay's doing it. So we've got both ends of the spectrum. That is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's one thing that, because you mentioned early on, right after I jumped on, Jay, you said that you were afraid, and my biggest fear was, after my mother passed away, having just one parent left, my biggest fear was just, being alone. So for a few years, it wasn't a debilitating fear, but it was definitely there. And then, as I got older, I kind of got over that. But then, when I got married, then it was like, okay, so now, I'm starting to have kids and everything else, starting to have a family. And then that fear kind of resurfaced. And, what happens if something happens to her and, I'm left alone, to manage these kids? Because I know my father, he did a great job. And, the self-doubt and whatnot, I don't have the confidence even today. Like if I had to do it by myself, I don't know what I do, So, I admire, anybody who can handle that challenge. Cause I've seen, what it takes to do that. So I definitely have a lot of respect for, Jay and anybody who in that situation.
Jay, let me ask you, what support, if any, have you gotten while you've had to raise your boys on your own?
I've had a lot of family support. I had a lot of times when I needed to travel with work, and if it was an extended amount of travel, I had several interesting situations come up. My grandmother, my mom's mom, actually moved in with us for about a year when the boys were younger. And I converted my office. I just added a twin bed in my office, which was downstairs. And she stayed in there. She would use my shower, which is a downstairs shower, after I had gone to work. But she stayed with us for about a year and would drive the boys to all the things they needed to go to, whether it was, to school or after school events, whenever I traveled. And then my traveling subsided somewhat. And then the next time that it popped up, my dad had actually retired, and he would come and stay with us, and just they live about 5 hours away from Austin, and he would come and stay, and so that was, it was good. And it was not only it was family members, but there were family members that we didn't live down the street, so it wasn't like we went over to Granny's house every Sunday for after Sunday dinner, church dinner or whatever. So they got to spend some significant time with some of their family members, and then there were support. There were couples in the church that would invite us to do things on occasion, and not too much. It wasn't overbearing, but it was good to be exposed and for the boys to see that I had friends as well, because that's the one thing that I've noticed. Well, especially when they were young, I didn't allow or didn't pursue friendships very often because I just didn't feel like I had the time or the energy to pursue those relationships, whether they were with men or women, either one. It's like every spare moment that I had, I felt like it was important, being, like Daniel's dad, taking care of both responsibilities, feeding, doing the laundry. I got a pile of socks over there on the sofa right now, still, and they're, grocery shopping and trying to keep the floors clean and the toilets clean and that kind of stuff. So having the family members was really, really beneficial.
How do you feel it's impacted your sons in any way, you having to basically be a mother and father for a significant period of time?
Well, what's unique is kind of what Alicia was saying about Daniel. In the parental roles, I'm the more nurturing one. I mean, that's my nature. I've always been that way. I'm the hugger and kisser. I'm the back rubber. I'm not the helicopter parent necessarily. I mean, I want the boys, if they're going to jump out of the tree, I'm going to sit here and watch them, break their leg, because I want them to know that jumping out of the tree is not going to be a healthy activity to do on a regular basis. But, there's my boys right now, when we part ways, and I've told Dr. Vibe, I've told you this before. I mean, whenever we part ways, we always say we love each other, and I always kiss them on the lips, still to this day, because I want them to know, I mean, there's going to be a time when that last kiss is the last kiss. And whether it's something that happens to them or something that happens to me, I don't want us to ever part and have any regrets that either they know or don't know that I love them, or I know or don't know that they love me. So that's one thing that we continue to do today.
Wow, that's powerful. That's really, really powerful. Hey, Alicia, what's up?
Okay, so this is from Rich. Rich says, no one really knows how hard this is. From the outside, I look like this miracle who has somehow kept it all together. But on the inside, I'm literally torn up. If people knew the details of what this is really like, I doubt they'd be giving accolades. I'm embarrassed about the things that happen here, and that I find out about that not even the ones involved know I know about. Motherless children really struggle. Each day, month, and year goes by, not getting better, but getting harder, and the effects of it all run deeper into our already distressed lives. The world's expectations are too much. I didn't sign up for this, but I know I have to keep going somehow. This is my assignment, my vocation. I miss you, Joanne, as much as the day you died. I miss your soft touch, your gentle kiss, your wisdom and guidance. Why did this happen? Why? Sometimes I think you're proud, but mostly I think you just shake your head and have everyone up there pray for me. And I guess that's what's kept me going. Keep praying so I can continue on. I'm really tired of fighting this fight. It gets old. I miss you, and I can't wait to see you again. I love you.
Wow.
So, and there's a lot of, I mean, I can go on and on and on, all the responses. And then he went on to respond to that the next day. And he said, let's see, in the twilight of the night, just before the blanket of sleep falls upon us, we can all feel alone in our journey. That's how I felt last night. Choosing to post my feelings maybe wasn't the best idea I've had, but it certainly caused a tidal wave of love and support that has absolutely overtaken me. Thank you all so much for your comments, messages, and phone calls. I am just overcome with gratitude for you all. It is sad that we teach what we need to learn, and that is certainly true for me. Sometimes the teacher needs to be taught, the inspirer needs to be inspired, and the encourager needs to be encouraged. Thank you all for, hold on, I got to continue, doing that for me and helping me back up so I can see the big picture again. This journey isn't over for me by a long shot, but I'm able to continue because of you. I love you all. This is a man who, my cousin's daughter is best friends with his daughter. He lives down in South Jersey, in New Jersey, and he's pretty incredible. He actually won a trip to, he's got a very deep faith. He's a really good Catholic, and he relies on the church for a lot of support. and he actually won a trip to go to, I guess it's Turkey, Medjugorje, Yugoslavia, Turkey, I guess it is now. But and he did see a lot of awesome things. There's actually a movie coming out called Apparition Hill that he's in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, first things first. Thank you for sharing him and that incredible
He
stuff.
said he would be
And
willing to be interviewed by you another time.
if anything that you can do to make that happen,
Yeah, sure.
I think that's huge. I need to meet him, even
Sure.
if it's over a phone, over a
Uh-huh.
screen,
You
because
got it.
yeah, because that in itself, that's incredible. Those are the things we need to hear, and if he can share some of his story, would be so impactful and so encouraging, not only for men who are doing the same thing, but for all of us, not just men who are in that same situation.
Mhm.
Like, I would just let him say anything he wanted to say.
Yeah, he's cool. I interviewed him. I did a blab with him before. I believe it's recorded.
Well, if you find the link,
yeah.
please share
I'll
it with
send
me, because I'd love to see it, because like I'm really taken back.
Yeah, it was great.
Sevilla
And
asked, what are the ages of these?
What are the ages of the kids, you know?
I think he's got like some that maybe in their 30s all the way down to maybe 12 or 10.
Wow.
It's a big range. As a matter of fact, he couldn't talk to us because he was going out for ice cream with the kids. I think he only has 6 left in the house.
But still.
No, I'm being facetious.
Wow.
He's pretty great. Rich is really he's quite an amazing guy.
Thank you, man. Man, thank you, Alicia. Thank you again. As always, you make the program better. 2 times tonight. You brought the big guy on, and you brought another gentleman through you on, and that's just outstanding. Why aren't we, in your gentleman's opinion, and also Alicia can join in too, why aren't we hearing more about people like men like him, men like that? Why aren't we hearing more of those stories?
Well, I do see like a commonality between Jay and Dan. You're both connected to a church, and I think that when you have that, and Daniel, we met through church choir. He got his connection socially through church. So it's interesting to see how they have found an extension of their family, a church family, and I think that helps a lot. And Rich is huge in his church.
One of the things that I had a discussion with, actually, a female pastor a couple of weeks ago. I was feeling very discouraged. I'm changing mortgage companies, and I was feeling very discouraged through the process. But I think that God's been working on using this experience to model for my kids what choices, what are important choices career-wise. Talking about faith and prayer and trusting, trusting God for His plan, even though we don't necessarily see it. But very, very discouraged. And one of the things that she said to me, she said, and it blew me away. She said, and she took me and like held my shoulders, and she says, Jay, what you are doing is the definition of manhood. You are becoming weak so that he can be strong. And that is not recognized by society as a sexy attribute. However, it is very, very sexy. And it came across just so, I was so appreciative of it, because it is what I tell myself cerebrally. I agree 100%. It's the choices I'm making, but society does not praise or admonish those kind of behaviors. They, you know, it's not glorified in most relationships. You know, whether, you know, wherever we're seeing our, you know, some confirmation. And so to hear that, you know, it just goes against society. I mean, it's, you know, it gets back to, you know, the fact that we're not of this world. We're in it, but we're not of it. And it's, if you want to try to be gauged and measured against the world standards, then that's what you know, you jump into that pool and you do those kind of things that the world praises. But if, you know, you want to do, you know, what we've been talking about tonight, you know, and do the right thing and raise kids the right way and make a difference, then that's not necessarily what you're going to find in the world. You're going to have to, you know, you're standing on a pedestal and you're going to be, the world's
Well,
going to try to knock you off.
we've got Colin Porter joining us. Hey, Colin, how are you?
I'm great, thanks, Dr. Vibe. I was sort of umming and ahhing, as we say over here, as to whether to jump in or not. And what this guy just said, I think, made me jump in. Yes, there are a lot of things going on in, we'll say, secluded groups, separate groups, that are not easily accepted by society. The point you brought out a short while ago, and I'll probably get shot down for this. I've got an 11-year-old son, 10-year-old daughter, 8-year-old son, and whenever I leave them after a visit, I always give them a kiss. And, you know, okay, so it's on the lips. A lot of people are probably going to jump on me now and say, you know, that's totally wrong. He's 11 years old, the little lad's 8 years old. But I love my kids. My dad never showed affection to me, but my mum did. So I'm a little bit on the flip side of the coin here. And as I went into relationships, I sort of looked more for that maternal side, that nurturing side of what my mum had given me, but I didn't get from my dad. And I think that my lads, my perspective is that my lads need to know that it's okay to show affection, that it's a good thing to show affection, and to bring that back round. I think the more people that come out and say, this is what I do, even though it might be frowned upon by society, and thanks to Dr. Vibe's group, this is what's happening. People are able to see what's actually happening in these segregated areas, and the bigger the group's going to get, because it's going to become more acceptable. And I think with people such as Dr. Vibe putting this group together, this talk he's got tonight, with such as yourself and the gentleman down the back, I haven't got my reading glasses in, so I can't tell you what your names are. Sign of old age at 51, yeah, you know, such is life. But I needed to give you verbal props, the two of you, for the things that you came out and said. Is absolutely phenomenal. So I'm going to drop back on the side. I'm not going to come in here and monopolize, but thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks for stopping by. My pleasure. Our pleasure.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bless you all.
Colin, thank you for coming in
Absolutely.
and sharing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that I want to, you know, say, you know, about the kissing. My grandfather, who was my mentor, I mean, we kissed each other until the day he died, and he modeled that it was still masculine. There was nothing feminine about that. I mean, it doesn't have to be feminine, but the world views it as, you know, intimacy between a male and a female. In reality, I don't agree. I think it's very intimate, but I don't think that it's something that is just between a male and a female. And I remember my grandfather, saying that was very important. And I agree because I want my kids. I mean, I think about my son when he rides his motorcycle to school. I want him to be able to do that, but I also know that riding a motorcycle is very dangerous. And every time I see him ride off, I know it could be the last day that I see him. I don't want to deny him something that he wants to do, and he's earned that right. But I also know that we're going to kiss each other, and if he puts his helmet on before I get my kiss, I make him take his helmet off.
Before I let Daniel join on with more stuff, I just want to shout out some people of Van Slieger. If you can jump in, Van Slieger, I'd really like to get some of your perspective on this conversation. Ahmed Hazel, thank you always for stopping by. If you want to jump in, Tatiana, thank you as always. Of course, +1, thank you so much. A new person who I haven't seen or either have not seen for a while, Cassiana, Anna at 1234W, thank you for stopping by. Ria Lynette, when she comes by, it's always good. And also stopping by, Ronnie P. So, Daniel, additional comments or takes you'd like to. You've been quiet for the last few minutes, but I can tell you're a good listener.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah, with all these people in the house. Just in a general sense, I don't know if there is such a thing as a traditional role anymore. Things are so different now with blended families, with single parent families and everything else. I think generally men have been demasculinized, for the last 10, 15 years, to the point where it's not even the kissing necessarily, because my father does that, still, anytime he greets us or he leaves, not on the lips, but, we give each other a kiss on the cheek, it's just, I love you. It's always that kind of a thing. And obviously, he's 82. He's not going to change, but just in terms of, I think men needing to reclaim some of the traditional aspects of what their role used to be, maybe not completely, I don't necessarily think that it has to be such a rigidly defined role where, the man goes out to work and the woman stays home and cooks and cleans. I mean, obviously there needs to be shared responsibilities in the home and things like that, but I think there is a lack of, in today's world, I don't think the boys are growing up with real healthy male role models, just in general,
You know what? And I'm glad you're saying that, because I'm going to use that as another conversation. I'm going to probably use the title Men. What is today's male role model look like? Because I'm sure there'd be various opinions on that, on what it looks like. And I don't want to shove away too far away from the conversation, but I think that both of you gentlemen I just really I'm tipping my hat off to you both, because you've been very transparent. You've been very honest about the situation. Where I get concerned where are the men who are going through this situation and they're not being heard from, or they're not being spoken to, and they're not being supported. Those are the men that I'm really concerned about, because not only does that impact them, that impacts their children. And Jay, you've been a great parent on your own, and you've set up your young boys, and you're setting them up for success, just like you, Daniel, your father set his kids up for success.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And I think what you're saying, and I feel like it's the same. I think it's, definitely a minority situation. It's not something that gets talked about, and not to exclude, all the other. I mean, there's a lot of, single moms out there, and we're not excluding that, but we're, trying to voice, a particular situation that doesn't get talked about. And it's so odd that that we don't talk about it, because there's plenty of men out there. I mean, even the men that are sharing responsibility for raising children with their ex-wives. A lot of them are, they're really not equipped, and so they give up. They throw their hands up, and they're like, just let the mom do it. And and that's a disservice for the kids. And I think a lot of it has to do with them not having the support that Daniel and I have had. And Daniel's, dad, and having, multiple children that has stepped up to the plate. So I'm glad we're having the conversation. It's a good conversation to have. And, just the 12 people that are in here, it could hopefully impact just one other person.
Well, it's interesting incredible. Because as we're sharing here, I just went online and just put in, single fathers raising kids alone organizations. And I came to a website, National Fatherhood Initiative, and they said online resources. And one of them is a resource called Single Dad. So I'm actually going to put this, and what I'm going to do based on this conversation, I'm going to actually reach out to them and see if we can get them on Blab.
Check your Twitter private messaging. I left you a link that Rich posted on his Facebook page.
Okay, thank you. No, I really appreciate that, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to them and also give them the link to this Blab, and see if we can get someone from the organization on, because I'm not ending this conversation with this conversation. I'm starting this conversation with this conversation. And I think it's very important that this issue gets out there. And I know there's some people here, some people who are on my conversation. If you want to step in and even give an opinion, you don't have to be someone who's knowledgeable. Just give your thoughts from your heart about, this issue. Because maybe I can start something or add on to a movement that needs to get more more vision, more accessibility, more knowledge, be more out there than it is, because I only saw one website out there dealing with single dads, and I'm sure there's a lot of single dads that are either doing it or on the edge of quitting.
We have a neighbor down the street. Yeah. One of the things that's cool about, we have a lot of people who are divorced around us. And so a lot of times, like, we have my daughter's friend, Virginia. The dad wants to go away on vacation with his daughter, but he doesn't want to go alone. So he's taking our daughter on vacation with him, which is our pleasure, because it's nice for her to have like alone time with a girlfriend. But he just is like, what did he say? He didn't know what he was going to do with Virginia. And he was so glad to have taken Bella, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but I think it's just more of she's what, 10?
Yeah.
And he's going to be, gone for 3 or 4 days, and just keeping her occupied for that entire time, would be a bit challenging, by himself, being away from home and stuff like that. So, we were more than happy to help him out, and my daughter's thrilled, so. But getting back to, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, because you were saying that you weren't really finding a lot of resources out there, and I, when a couple of years after my mother passed away, our local newspaper did, like a little human interest story on us, so we kind of made the cover of the family living section, whatever it was, because I think it is kind of rare, it's much more common to hear about single moms raising their families. So even back then, this was the early 80s, to kind of get that perspective on what that was like. And I still think today, and I don't know, if you look at the statistics, I'm sure that the single mother families far outnumber the single father families. So that's probably part of why there aren't as many resources out there. And I'm suspecting that maybe another reason is societally, men are probably just expected to kind of deal with it, and the men themselves probably may not be as comfortable with sharing their vulnerability or their, their struggles, and putting themselves in that spot of asking for help or just admitting that they need help, even if, they really might be breaking down inside. I think that could be part of it too. So, it's not,
it's interesting you say that, Daniel, because one of the words that comes up so much when I have these manhood discussions is the word vulnerability.
Yeah.
It just seems to be one of those core things with men that isn't discussed. And here it is in this again, vulnerability is, oh man, because I can just picture so many men that are in this situation right now, and they maybe emotionally have just had their hands up in the air. What do I do?
Well, being a person of faith, I mean, you're never more vulnerable than when you're at the foot of the cross, and you're, I mean, you can't hide anything from God. It's all there for him to see. So, it's not, at that point, if you can accept that, reality, that God sees you in your, in all your ugliness, all your weakness, then, I mean, at least for me, sometimes it's not easy, but, you got to put yourself out there.
Yeah. Good stuff. Jay? Anything else you want to add?
No, I'm glad that I was able to come on. I'm glad to talk about this topic. I really didn't think about coming on. When you posted this and I subscribed, I wanted to hear what, others came on. And so, Daniel, I appreciate you coming on and, sharing your story. It's encouraging. I mean, it is encouraging. And this is, I've thought of 7 different topics that we could spin off of this.
Well, then you better share them with me, or are you going to do them on your own?
Yeah. Well, but and it's there's so many things that we used the term vulnerability a few minutes ago, and I just think that there's an element of vulnerability that we as men tell ourselves is not masculine, when in fact I hear so many times from women that being vulnerable at the right time is exactly what they want out of us as their men. It shows that we care. It shows that we're capable of loving, instead of always posturing. We get so used to giving into our carnal side of puffing our chest out, and everything's a competition with other men, that any kind of vulnerability is perceived as weakness, when in reality it's not weakness. It's just what we're telling ourselves.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be definitely a good conversation.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
I've enjoyed this.
This has been great, and I don't know if we still have Alicia or not. There's a dark screen going on there.
Yeah, it looks like they're pulsating on my screen.
Yeah. So what we'll do, and if Alicia and Daniel come back in a few moments, no, we lost them. Okay, no problem. So we're gonna close off the recorded part of the. Oh, they're coming back. Oh, here we go.
Sorry about that. We just I don't know.
There we
just
go.
Just went blank for me.
Hey, it's all right.
Thanks
You're back. We didn't. No problem. Well, Daniel and Alicia, first of all, thanks for making the conversation better tonight. Do you have any final words that you'd like to share with us in regards to this conversation we've had this evening?
I guess, there's if there are men out there, that are listening to this, you're not alone. And I think that's the most important thing, and especially now in this day and age with the internet, you can find people that are, that can share your situation, and you can have discussion with. I think that's so important, to help you move forward. So yeah, you're definitely not alone. We're out there.
Absolutely. Alicia, thank you. I know you're in the background. If you want to, do you want to give out any of your contact information, or you're all good?
You can find me at Alicia Baza everywhere.
Yeah, that's it.
YouTube is where you can hear us singing. Actually, Daniel and I are singing the Vivaldi Gloria. If anybody's in the Morristown area on Saturday night at 8 p.m., we're doing our concert, Endless Song. It's not just us. We're a part of the Morris Choral Society. And I'm in the soprano section, and Daniel's in the tenor section. So I have a little baby solo, but it's going to be cool.
Actually, before we leave, I see that John Haynes has come on. John Haynes, if you have anything quick you want to say about this conversation piece, please come on, because I know you'd have something to share. And John always has great value. So John, either come on, or I'll give you a minute to come on this one. I know you can end it off, you and Jake can end it off right well. So I'll give you a minute to jump on. For myself, if anyone wants to touch base with me, the Twitter handle is there. Also, you can go to my website, the drvibeshow.com, Dr. Vibe. I will type it in here. So you can contact me there if you wish. I'm also on, I do stuff for a website called thegoodmenproject.com, which is one of the most viewed sites in the world. For men, I've been posting shows on there for the last 3 years. I'm the only online show that is allowed to post anything I want on their platform. So a lot of my blabs go on that platform because I believe in the importance of manhood, like everyone who's here does. Let me see if Mr. Haynes wants to come on. He's in the background, so maybe he's putting, as he says, his little man to bed. Jay, any final comments you want to share with us?
I just want to thank everybody that sat in the audience tonight. Anybody that's listening to the recording, like Daniel said, I definitely don't want anybody to think they're alone. It can be very overwhelming, but Daniel's an encouragement. He was raised without a mother, and we've talked about if you're a man that's been raised without a mother and it's provided issues, or it's provided opportunities that you've overcome, there are other people that can definitely benefit from your story. And just like Daniel has benefited me, so he was raised without his mom, and he's been an encouragement to me tonight as I'm raising my children.
Yeah.
So I just appreciate, Dr. Vibe, you taking the opportunity, an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes out of your, or hour and a half out of your evening, and putting this topic together, and allowing me an opportunity to share what I got to share. Thanks, guys.
That's what it's all about. And if anyone, and yeah, Daniel, thank you. Like, this is what I really enjoy, what I do when I get two gentlemen or people who don't know each other, who can add light to each other's life.
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
And thanks so much for sharing your story. And be careful, I may want you back, Daniel. So
absolutely, it'll be a pleasure. It'll be a pleasure.
Yeah, well, anytime
in the house. So this is the most I've talked in the house in a long time.
Well, any Monday, any Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern time, you want to jump on, we'll be on.
Got it.
And thank you again for making the conversation better. Folks, I've just put a link in the sidebar. If you have 2 minutes, I'd appreciate you just clicking on it and giving your thoughts, comments about tonight's conversation. Again, I've given my website address. My Twitter handle is on the side. Thank you so much for most of the people here have been on since the beginning, and I really appreciate that. I really appreciate it. Big thanks to Jay, because for a long time I've wanted to get on for one of my whole blabs, and I finally did it. So I feel good tonight. I got him finally for like an hour and a half. So as I always like to say, you're blessed and highly favored. You're a magnet for miracles, and you're a solution for someone's problem. I'm doing a blab tomorrow night. Don't know what it's about. I'm interviewing somebody, but on Thursday night, I have a lady who is one of the people that Fortune 500 companies go to when they want to market products to African Americans. And she's been doing it for over 20 years. Her name is Pepper Miller. She's going to be on Blab. So we've been friends for 3 years, and I finally got her on Blab. So I'm going to shut down the recording. If you want to stay on for the after show, be my guest. We'll see you soon. And as we say back home, walk good.